Fungicide sites of action. This has gotten to be a big topic here over the last few years.
Well, just like we've learned with weeds, with insects, where if you continuously use the same thing, eventually there's going to be resistance building up to that.
Yep.
We're learning those same lessons in fungicides, and we have learned them over the last couple of decades, that if you use that same family just over and over and over again, that you're going to have problems. That's why we're talking about this, just being aware that there are products in different families that you may not be aware of, and also there's combination products out there to try and help you fight resistance.
Okay, so let's start first with where are we seeing resistance and what is the resistance to?
Well, mainly it's the strobilurin chemistry, and it's kind of one of those good and bad things. I applaud BASF. They did a fantastic job with marketing the product headline. There have been strobilurins out like Quadris for years, but BASF really got people aware of the benefits of using a fungicide, both with plant health and with disease control. And all of a sudden, people across the country, instead of asking for a fungicide, farmers are asking for headline. And I thought that was fantastic because now guys are aware that, wow, here's a problem that we weren't solving before, and there are solutions to fixing those problems.
Yes, but that's great, but it's just single chemistry, and it's getting used at seed treatment time, in furrow time when you're planting, early season, mid-season, late season. I mean, it just was getting used all over the place, many times on the same farm, and that's really difficult, and that's where the resistance does start to build up. So frog eye leaf spot, for example, we're seeing this big issue in the south. We're just concerned about a lot of different diseases, and so that's why we would encourage you to switch modes of action or sites of action. But the problem is we don't have a lot of options. We have triazoles. We have this newer family, they'll call it, the SDHI, even though some of those products have been out for years, but that's where Xemium would come from, or Luna, or some of these other ones. So there is another site of action that you could use, and then there's the old chlorothalonil or Bravo. So other than that, we don't have a lot of choices. There's a lot of research being done. There are a lot of new products that are coming at some point down the road, but many already fall into one of those categories already.
Well, there's certainly a lot of crops where multiple fungicide applications have been used for a long time. I'll cite sugar beets, for example. Most sugar beet farmers in the upper Midwest, they're using 3 or 4 different shots of fungicides throughout the year. The sugar beet co-op generally will tell farmers, look, here's the order we're going to do it. We'll use this family first, then this family, and so on, just because they know disease control is critical to raising a successful crop. However, in corn and soybeans, and even in wheat to some degree, a lot of farmers are just making 1 shot of fungicide
if any. The untreated acre is still the most predominant in corn, in soybeans, and in wheat. So when we talk about, other than, of course, everybody has a seed treatment for the most part, but in terms of the foliar fungicides, there isn't a lot getting done. And so it's a different deal. And the big thing, yeah, we're talking about resistance, we're talking about using different sites of action, but we don't want you to panic too much. If you're a corn, soybean, or wheat farmer, chances are you have very few problems today, and most likely you have no problems at all. The biggest issue you have is diseases are still robbing your yield. So let's focus on that. We've got to control diseases. What's the best plan of attack? So number 1, I can get control. Number 2, I can do it economically. And number 3, hopefully I can prevent resistance going forward.
Well, I think prevention is really the key. You have to be proactive and be out there ahead of time if you're using a fungicide. So you can't wait until, all right, I've already got 10% or 20% infection on my plant. Hey, it's way too late to do a really good job with a fungicide. You got to be way out in front, and don't listen to the people that say, well, this one's a curative fungicide. That is a term that's really recklessly used, I think.
None of them are curative. Let's put it that way right now. And okay, they might have slight curative activity, but by slight, I mean almost nothing. So forget about the curative activity. You cannot scout for diseases. If you're going to scout for diseases, just don't even bother spraying. You're just wasting your money, okay? By the time you spray, you've already lost a bunch of the yield. You've got to spray early. That's the whole key. And then besides that, okay, when we talk about how do you get the best return on investment, early season, when plants are little, you can use lower rates. Okay, in wheat, that's what guys are doing. In soybeans, we've done that for years. In corn, I'd suggest that too. Quit using the full rates early. It's just like, and a lot of people say, oh, you can't do that. You're going to have resistance. No, I'm not. I want you to think about this. Okay, if I'm an adult and I'm going to take some medicine, if I had a kid who was 1/3 or 1/4 my size, would they give the kid the same dose as me, the adult? Absolutely not. And that's all we're talking about here. This is for disease prevention. Okay, that's what the fungicide is for. So when you have a tiny plant, use a smaller dose.
All right, the other thing is just to keep in mind what time of year it is as well, and where that plant is at. You have to look at critical growth stages for your plants, for whatever crop we're talking about, and then look at which leaves you need to protect.
Right, and the reason why is these fungicides are not mobile in the plant, okay? They aren't even mobile inside a leaf. So they will not move down because they move in the xylem, and the xylem only transports things up. So if you only spray the top half of a leaf, the bottom half of the leaf can get disease. So having great spray coverage is a real key. So if you want the best return on investment, our suggestion for you is when it's early, use lower rates. When it's later, use higher rates. All the time when you're spraying fungicides, use small droplets. That means spraying with flat fan nozzles, none of that drift reduction stuff. We gotta have flat fan nozzles, small droplets, great spray coverage, maybe a little more water, maybe a little bit more spray pressure. Those would be good steps. And then beyond that, use a 2 mode of action fungicide rather than a single mode of action fungicide. That'll give you the best protection going forward against building disease resistance.
Well, protecting your crop from disease is very important, but protecting your fields from weeds is also critical. Can you identify this week's Weed of the Week?